Welcome to another episode of I'm Not Yelling, I'm Dominican podcast, hosted by Nachi and Damaris. All right, people. Today we're going to talk about self-care. Have you ever said to yourself, you just don't have time for self-care? When you think about self-care, do you think about a spa day or getting your hair and nail done? Well, we're going to dive into this topic and talk about what it means when we say self-care, what does it look like, and how we can begin to incorporate that into our busy lives. So let's just start off with what is self-care. Sister, what do you say about that? What does self-care mean to you?
Hey everyone, it's Damaris, your favorite delicate flower. So, yeah, I can't wait to get into this. What is self care? So, I know I used to think, when I used to think of self care, it was very much of what you kind of just mentioned, this idea that, oh, I'm going to pamper myself. I'm going to treat myself, treat yourself, as they say. And I'm going
Right.
to the spa, get my hair done, or get my nails and get it, the full body massage, stones heated, all that good stuff.
Yes, all of that, all of that.
But it also, but because of that, it erected barriers, right? So it made me think that, well, self care takes time and I have to schedule that. And it also takes money. I have to take some time off of work to do it. And, and I had to learn over the last few years in particular that self care really goes beyond just that materialistic, or not even, I don't even want to say materialistic, but just that idea that it's only some luxury experience, that in order to experience what self-care truly is. And so self-care really is like going beyond that. It's taking care of yourself on a mental level, on a physical level, spiritual level, emotional level, and then doing those things that really are there to part of your personal preservation, and that requires care in all those areas. And I think a lot of people probably think about how I used to think about self-care. So that's how I kind of view of what self-care is really, caring for the health of those four areas that I kind of just shared. What about you? What do you
Yeah,
think?
I agree with all that. I also thought about, when we would talk about self-care or I would think about self-care, it's like, okay, let me go get my nails done or I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to go get my hair done or something to that effect. But it was always something that I had to go and get done, right? But not everybody has the funds or
Mm-hmm.
even the time
Right.
to go sit down at a nail salon to, get the nails done. That's going to last, depending on what they're getting, um, a week or two. And I also had to kind of sit back and think about like, okay, what's self-care? And my understanding is that, and I had to look it up too, because
Right.
again, it was like, well, how would I define self-care? And self-care is, you know, part of maintaining a healthy relationship with yourself. So to
Yes.
your point, it has to go beyond that, that oh, I'm getting something done for me, but rather looking at it from that perspective of having a relationship with yourself, like
Mm-hmm.
this is like you would with anybody else. And the definition that I looked up and I saw that was on this one website called Active Minds. It they defined it as doing things to take care of our minds, bodies, and souls by engaging in activities that promote well-being and reduce stress.
Right.
That captured it all.
Yeah.
And it's similar to what you just said. It's just like it goes beyond, you know, just having something done, but more so how can I engage with, you know, what am I doing that's promoting my well-being?
Right.
Because there's a lot of stuff that's going on in the world and people's personal lives that
Yep.
will stress the shit out of you.
Pretty
I
much.
mean, you know, self-care is turning off that TV and stop watching the news. That was my self-care when
Hello.
I'm
But
telling
that's a
you.
good point, right? And I think it's to go back to it. The idea of self-care can be daunting if you think it's only by
Mm-hmm.
doing these, uh, having these luxury experiences where you feel like you need to luxuriate. But
Yes.
if you understand that it goes beyond that, then doing things as simple as like, what's going to keep you from losing your mind? If it means you don't watch, the morning talk shows or
Mm-hmm.
the evening news, then stop.
Yeah, definitely.
Remove
I
yourself off
remember.
of
Yep.
social media.
Yes.
Take a
Take.
break.
Yes, take a break. And I do that often. I even
Uh-huh.
now have set a limitation on my my Instagram.
I do too, but
Like
I go
I
over it. I'll be like, oh, ignore limits.
yeah.
As I'm like, now this week I said I'm not going to be on it for a full week. I have to get my life together.
Yes, yes. You do have to detox every so often just to kind of not get all this
It's
information,
too
you know,
much.
yes, the information overload. And I remember, you know, I used to faithfully get up in the morning and as I'm getting ready, I'm watching the TV, the morning news. Right before I go to bed, I will watch the morning news. And I started to realize how I felt whenever I watched, especially
Mm-hmm.
when it was just like, and this was really around the time when the uh when Trump was in office and they
Right.
were just always constantly talking
Oh
about
gosh,
him.
yes.
And it's just like, I'm tired of hearing about him. Like, y'all,
Right.
I don't want to start my morning and end my damn night
Mm-hmm.
hearing about Trump.
This dude,
Like,
yes.
y'all the one who voted him in. Like, like stop it.
Right.
But I had to, and that's when I realized, like, okay, my day cannot start off in this way, you know? And that in and of itself is self-care. Because I
Yes, for your
recognize,
mental health being.
right. I recognize how it was affecting me.
It puts you off your day.
Yes, yes. And people don't want to believe it, but something I remember this one coworker of mine, she had said, you know, because I think I don't know how the conversation came up, but it was around, you know, watching news and taking a
Mm-hmm.
break from the news.
Yes.
And she was the total opposite. She was, I cannot, she was like, my day doesn't go right if I don't watch the news. But it reminded me
Of your
of your
father?
parents.
Yeah, yeah, my oh, your father used to be like, if you don't watch the news,
Yes,
how do you know what's going on in the world?
yes,
Like, what's
yes.
wrong with you? I'm like, I don't know. I don't need to know what's going on in the world, actually. I need to
Right,
focus on my
right,
life.
right,
He's
right.
like, you
And
know
they
what
would,
happened in Russia? I'm like, what does that have to do with
you
the
know,
price of tea in
yeah,
China?
yeah, yeah. No, and he loved to make you feel stupid.
Oh
Like,
yeah, that was
why,
his MO.
how you don't know about that?
He's
You
like,
need
Mommy,
to watch
you
the
need to
news.
know these things. Really? Do I need to know these things? And I say no.
Right. Am I
But
writing policies and making deals?
listen,
No.
listen. No, the best one of the funniest experiences that I had was, and I didn't realize, like you, I used to wake up to news, but it was to radio news because watching TV would distract me. So I just knew that I would have the radio playing.
Right.
Now, for those of you guys that live in New York City or grew up here, you know about 1010 Wins. It is a great AM station. They tell you their like their commercial is you get the news in 30
10
whatever
minutes or
10
something
minutes or
like
less, something
that.
like that.
Yeah.
And you get sports, weather, traffic, world news, local news. You get that
All
all
that.
within 10 minutes, and they're not lying. But here's the thing, again, this is New York City news. So there's a lot happening. I didn't think nothing of it that my radio I would wake up to the radio. So that was my alarm. I didn't wake up with an alarm blaring, but I woke up to dun, 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 right? And it's like breaking news, dun, 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 you know, or
Every
here's the
day
weather.
was a breaking news.
Until I started dating my husband, my now husband. He was like, what are we waking up to? I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, we wake up and they're like 10 people shot in Brooklyn, you know, or fire blaze in the Bronx.
Right,
10 people died there, 2 families. And I was just
Right.
like, that's not true. We wake up to like sports, you know, or to the weather. It's not always about some tragic news. Literally, I said that the next morning we wake up. It's like 3 people run over by a New York City bus. Look,
Oh my
I
goodness.
no disrespect to
couldn't
those
come
people
from
that were run over by that bus, but I broke out laughing because I was just like, damn. And he looked at me. I turned over. I'm like, he got me.
Yes, he was
was
like,
like-
I told you
I was
every
like,
morning.
okay, you're right.
Every morning.
We probably shouldn't wake up to news about someone being gunned down or run over
Oh my
by
goodness.
a mass transit bus.
Good
Yeah,
morning
you
to
win.
you.
You win. You win.
Right, right.
So then I stopped. We just stopped, and you know, he's been great about actually getting us really great alarms that are either they have like a chime, a meditation chime, or just very easygoing alarm clocks to ease into our day without some craziness. And that's a form of self-care that I didn't even realize I needed,
is.
because it was just like, it did, even though I didn't feel it at that moment, it's this, oh my God, I live in a world and an environment where it's like people are constantly getting hurt.
Yes.
And it's just, and that's just one aspect of it.
Right. And they're always putting that in the news, because for them, hey, that's how we get ratings. That's people who count on us to give them, you know, share the you know, all these tragedies, because that's what the news is full of. We don't ever hear, or rarely hear, of any good news being reported.
No.
It's just unheard of. It's unheard of.
Yeah, and I think that's, so going back to recognizing that there are simple, direct, free ways to address your self-care, I think it could be a reason why or at least it can encourage people to prioritize self-care if they recognize that it is not something that requires money or a significant amount of time. Because honestly, in reading some articles about this, the importance of self-care being prioritized is that it reduces your anxiety. It can reduce your depression if you suffer from that.
Yes, absolutely.
Also the stress, right? Improving your resiliency overall. It's increasing energy. Like, again, it all depends on like the areas of focus that you want to do self-care on. But like, if you think about your health, if you prioritizing that, and self-care with, you know, if we want to tackle the different topics, but like health, you know how I am. For me, it's about, I have high discernment on anything I put in my body and on my body. So I don't even use lotions. I create my own body oil. Because I'm I don't know what y'all put in them, what chemicals you be trying to. It's like there's so many chemicals I have to keep track of that can cause cancer. I don't have time. You know what? Guess what? Maybe I'll just do my own thing. And I do. I made a little body oil for Molly too. She was like, thank you.
Right.
Because she was like, your skin is so soft. I'm like, I know, girl. I take care of it. But
and that's how it should be. But that is a form of self-care right then.
Yes.
You know, right there. And it's being aware of yourself, right? And I feel like you know, especially women, particularly Black and Latinas, we're conditioned to ensure that everyone is being taken care of.
Yes.
So we don't even.
So another reason why it's not prioritized.
Right. whether it's our partner, spouse, sibling, children, extended family. I mean, we're just taught that you need to make sure everyone around you is taken care of, everyone. And so we end up taking on that burden
Yep.
and exclude ourselves. And so, a lot of us aren't in tune with our bodies and our needs, you know, or what even brings joy to us, to even
Right.
get to a place of, oh, I need to prioritize myself, and this is how I'm going to do it.
Yes.
I mean, I remember asking mommy, I don't know what I was doing. I was doing something, because I'm always on some tantra challenge. And I
Okay.
think
Yes, you are.
and I think one of the things that came up, I was doing something, working through something, and
Mm-hmm.
one of the questions, it prompted me to ask mommy, like, what did she want to be when she was younger? Like, what does she want to do if she didn't have us, what was her passion? And she didn't have any.
Loving her family. Like when I've asked
Right.
her similar questions, she's like, having a family. And
Yeah,
and part
yeah.
of it is because I don't think she's ever taken the time
No.
to really reflect on that. And a second part is I really do think that, and again, not taking it away from anyone that feels that way, that no, I like, some people are like, that's what I want to be, is just a mom.
And right, and that's okay, but I think people, like, like mommy's generation, they they've been conditioned to be that way. So there
Yes.
was no opportunity really to
Hmm.
explore other things.
Absolutely.
It's been,
This is what's
oh,
expected of you.
right, you come of age,
Hmm.
and you should be looking for a husband and settle down,
Right.
and your priority should be your family, and that's it. And so we take on that burden, and then that manifests into dis-ease. You remember how you were like,
For the
what's
longest, I
this?
was like, why do they say dis-ease? And then I was like, holy snap. You're no longer at ease. Disease is really that you're not. Yeah, it was like mind blown.
Yeah,
You were just like, I was like, what, 2 months old, like, what, today years old, finding
yes,
out. I was like,
yes,
oh, okay.
yes.
Oh,
And
this is
I'm
what y'all all
cracking
mean
up.
by that. Oh,
I am
this
cracking up.
is. Yeah, I was a real
But
moron.
oh my gosh. But it comes in a form of depleted mental health,
Yep.
physical health, lack of sustainability.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's just like, sometimes you just have to kind of sit back and start to think, because, like they say, your outer world is a representation of your inner world.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
and I think, one have to, change or switch the dynamics from everyone else is a priority to, okay, I'm a priority. Everyone else
Yeah.
comes afterwards.
I mean, you're absolutely right. When I think about the women of mommy's generation, and then even how you've been, and I think about my friends that have had kids, and again, I can only speak to our culture and Caribbean upbringing, and
Mm-hmm.
also just, just in general of like, this idea that family is first, and if you're a mother, your children are first. And I used to think that way because that's how your mom was with us. Like, I knew without a shadow of a doubt we were a priority over your father. And I used to think that, yeah, that's the way it should be. But now as an adult, and also I remember watching some Oprah episode. I mean, obviously when I was probably like in my late teens, probably still in college, and there was this woman that caused this whole controversy because she talked about how she prioritizes her relationship with her husband over her
Mm-hmm.
children,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
her and she her argument was that, or not her argument, but she defended it by saying, like, if I have a strong relationship with my husband, then we can be, a better unit, if you will, for our overall
Mm-hmm.
family and our children. And I was just like,
Right.
that woman's wild. Meanwhile, I'm like, I'm a teenager. I don't have kids, but like, I
Right, right.
know, right? Like, I have an experience I've never had other than my high school boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
now, as an adult, someone who's married, while I don't have children, but I've been witness to you and to close friends and to other family members of, and your own and our own mother, of the of what can happen to a mother who prioritizes her children first. And I'm not saying to prioritize your husband first. I'm just saying the idea of, like, there's always putting someone above you, instead of saying I'm first, then
Right. Right.
I'm here for everyone else. And seeing how, like, I remember a friend where it's just like, she was a single mom too, like you, and her priority was her kid. And to the point where I felt like it was more of a priority for the child than for her. And she was exhausted a lot.
Definitely. It's funny. Yeah, I agree. So you're right. When I was married, I was so consumed with taking care of my husband and children, and every decision I made were around them, despite
Hmm.
whether I wanted it or not.
Right.
And not to say that you shouldn't be making decisions based on your, family's needs, but a lot of the times the decisions are made around them, like their wants. Oh, my husband, he's not going to want that, or my children's not going to want that. They're not going to be comfortable with that,
Hmm.
or it's never, you know, instead of, especially when I started thinking, changing the way I thought about my decisions, and started thinking about myself. Now, it wasn't like an overnight thing. Like, this is definitely something that I
Right.
still continue to work on, and realize when I feel like I'm going in a different path.
Hmm.
But every time that I've kind of put myself first in my decision, it's always worked out for me
Right.
in the long run, right? And it wasn't, you know, until I started thinking or putting myself first
Yeah.
that I started to see a change. Because when I was in that place, there was like missed career
Mm.
opportunities, business
Hmm.
opportunities, because I was always thinking about them, like, oh, I'm not going to be there enough,
Right. Right.
or, he won't be able to take time off from work. And it wasn't even like a situation where, oh, I sat down and had a conversation and mapped out a plan. It
Yeah.
was, I already thought in my head, oh, this is what's right for my family. When there was no discussion, they didn't say,
Right.
oh, this is what I need.
Right. Right. It's true.
It was just like this automatic, way of thinking of, all my decision has to be, whether it's going to benefit them
Hmm.
versus how it's going to benefit me, and then as a whole
Hmm.
benefit my family,
Right.
right? And so, yeah, we can get into that place. I mean, even now, I've had to rethink the way I deal with certain issues with my children.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, instead of being consumed, because yes, literally, when I separated from my husband, it was just me and the kids. Oh my goodness, talk about exhaustion. Like, I'm tired now, but in those first few
Right.
years, oh, I can't even explain the exhaustion
Yeah.
around that. And in hindsight, I feel if I made different decisions,
Right.
that things definitely would have been different. Um, but yeah,
Yeah. I
it's
think about what I heard one time Ian Van Sant say about being self-full and how that's different from being selfish.
Yes.
She's like, you can't, she's like, your cup needs to be full first before you can give. And especially when you want to get all spiritual and get all on Bible, she's like, when your cup runneth over, it's what's runneth over that you give.
Right.
Not from a depleted cup. So if you come from a place of everyone is first, I give, and I don't focus on refilling my cup, then how can you really be there for anyone?
Right.
And then it's not even the best you. And if you are there, obviously, but it's not the best version of you because you're either depleted, you lack energy, you're anxious, you're depressed, you're burnt out.
And you're just not the best version of yourself.
No, there's no way you can be the best version.
It's not a win.
But we're conditioned and we were raised to be like, that's selfish if you don't put others first, if you don't put your family first, if you don't put your kids first, don't put your husband first. And I was like, no, I come first. Look, I just told Natasha the other day, I was like, you know, when it came to something that she wanted to prioritize, I'm like, you do you. I know you have 2 boys, but no.
Yeah, no.
Like, put yourself first.
And I know it's hard. It's easier said than done. Like I completely get it, you know, but you really have to kind of sit down and think about it, you know, like, okay, how is it affecting me mentally? You know, and is this is my mental state impacting my children or my spouse or, you know, whoever? It's like you really have to be able to get in tune with yourself and identify those things, because that's really what's key and what's going to help identify those self-care activities that's going to help you through all of that, because it's hard out here.
Okay, listen. No, and that's all important, and that's kind of, you know, when you think about what does self-care look like, what I do is like identifying what that plan could look like for you as an individual. And you know, when I think about physical self-care, for example, for me, it comes in the food that I consume.
Right.
Right. Like, I am hyper mindful of, okay, ensuring that I have fruits that I eat in the morning, that I drink my celery juice to get my system right, that I focus on boosting my immune system in this crazy day and age. But how about I was on it before the pandemic, right? Like, I always cared about what I ate, eating the best meats that I could afford. Like, there's, again, and if you can't afford organic fruits, just buy fruits.
Right.
Like, read the labels. If you see ingredients that you can't even pronounce, it's probably not good. It's processed. Processed food just isn't good. Like, this is not, look, this is not an attack, but yeah, it's kind of an attack. Like, come on.
But they sell you on that, right? They sell you on,
it's quick and easy.
And easy. Yeah.
No, sometimes you just need to put in a little bit more time. And, you know, I don't want to, you're a single mom. You do it.
Yeah. Well,
you've been working on it. That's great.
I have been, because I was on that bandwagon of, look, I need something quick and easy. What's this frozen dinner? What's this chicken nuggets I can throw up in there? But when, you know, I started realizing that I need to start looking and reading these labels and really like understanding and absorbing all of that, and realizing that a lot of the shit that we eat, that we think is food, is really not food.
Right.
And I kick myself because I'm like, damn, I got my kids all hooked up on this shit.
And you got to give yourself compassion. Another form of self-care. That's right. You know, like, you got to give yourself grace. It's just about what you do now.
And I do. And so so now I read the labels and I'm very particular about what I purchase. I try to buy more whole foods than frozen. In fact, I don't.
Right. And we're not talking about Whole Foods, the supermarket. It's the idea that
Yes,
you're eating an apple, that is a whole food. You know, you're not
right.
eating an
Exactly.
apple Pop Tart. That is not a
Yes.
whole food.
Yes.
That is processed.
Yeah,
Fake, that's
exactly.
processed chemical ingredients.
Right. Right. You know, instead of buying the shredded cheese that has additives in
Right.
there so that it doesn't get caked up, buy the block of cheese and shred it yourself,
Right.
you know. Um, it's things like that.
Yeah, like
But
that. And that's exactly like when people need to start thinking about the types of self care and physical being one of them. Like that's it, right? Or for some people, it could
mhm.
be trying to incorporate more exercise into their regimen, whatever
Even
that looks like.
simple, yes,
Just what
even simple
simple things.
hygiene,
Yep.
yes, like brushing your teeth twice a day,
Hello.
like,
Dental
oh, I
floss.
right, right, like, oh, I want to have a pretty smile. I
Right.
want my teeth to look good. Yes, brush your teeth twice a day. Floss.
Right. Right.
But one of the things that I do, and I definitely see a difference when I don't do it, is spending time in the morning before
Mm-hmm.
the kids get up, and I have to get ready and rolling for my day.
Okay.
It's, when I take that time in the morning, and it really doesn't have to be a lot. It really could just be 15 minutes, but
Mm-hmm.
whatever time you take for yourself, that quiet moment
Mm-hmm.
where you just want to make yourself some coffee or just sit there, read a book,
Mm-hmm.
because that's something I love to read, but I haven't really, you know, had the time to just enjoy some leisure reading,
Right. Right.
right? And that's something that I've always missed. But even if it's like I said, a few minutes
Mm-hmm.
before you start your day, that that helps me a lot. Like, it helps me put my mind
Right.
in a peaceful state, because
That's
I'm gonna
great.
tell you, in the
But you
morning
forced it in there, right? It's just like five
I
minutes or
had
whatever.
to.
Right.
I
You
have to get up
prioritized
earlier.
it. You
Yes, I have.
prioritized it.
And I notice a difference when I don't do it.
Mm.
When I say, "Oh, I'm gonna sleep in a little," I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
sleep in, or
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna sleep until I just have to get up.
Right. You
And
pay the price.
yes, I do. It's a huge difference because I'm frazzled. I'm rushing the kids. I'm like, let's go, come on. And it's nothing that the kids are doing differently when I take my 15 or so
Right.
minutes in the morning. It's me, because of course they feed off of my energy.
Right.
Right. And my reaction is a little bit different when I'm tired and I'm not fully awake and I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to rush through,
Yep.
trying to get out the door. And so, my whole energy is off.
Yeah.
But when I take those few minutes, and again, it does not have to be 30 or an hour. I mean, that
No.
would be great if you could throw in an
Sure.
hour before and, do what you need to do, whether it's
But let it be
exercise.
realistic for yourself.
Right. And that's what I had to do. I had to put a time frame that was going to be realistic. Sometimes, yes, I can give myself an hour. Like, I've gotten up where, okay, I have an hour to myself.
Girl,
I'm
you
just gonna
good.
I'm just gonna do this. And but other times I'm like, I'm tired. But let me just make sure
At
I get
least
a
15 minutes.
15
Right.
minutes. Because now I'm not rushing, right?
Yeah.
I could
Yeah.
take my time, get myself together,
That's
make me some
totally
coffee.
mental self-care. That is
Absolutely.
you taking the time
Absolutely.
to get yourself right mentally for the
Yeah.
day.
And it's those quiet moments that you start to, especially like if you're journaling, if you're the type of
Mm-hmm.
person who likes to journal and put that to use consistently, you'll start to think about things will start to come to you. Like
Right.
you'll start to think about hobbies that you're like, oh, I think I want to take up painting, you know,
But that's like your
or
intuition. You actually are
mm-hmm,
like in are becoming aligned with your intuition, which is to me the way I feel, God speaks to me. So
mm-hmm,
it's
mm-hmm.
and that goes to spiritual self-care, right? Because
Yes.
I'm a
Mm-hmm.
firm believer, and I know you are too, that we're spiritual beings having a human experience. And for me, that's my spiritual self-care is huge, and forcing myself every morning to start my day with a prayer that begins with
Mm-hmm.
gratitude, and gratitude
Yeah.
of like the most basic function, like thank you
Thank you.
for this breath. I
Right.
remember I told a friend that, he was like, dang, girl, that sounds depressing. Like, you just think, I said, that's the most basic thing. Like, I'm not
Right.
here like, oh, thank you for, I'm getting to the luxury because thank you for my luxurious lifestyle. But first, thank you for letting me wake up with this
Yeah,
breath.
that's what I said. Thank you for waking me up. That's what I said.
Thank you
That's
for this breath that I'm
my
inhaling,
my
exhaling.
quick prayer. Yes.
Come on
You
now.
wake.
So,
Mm-hmm.
and and I do notice the difference when I also don't start with that prayer of gratitude, that prayer,
Mm-hmm.
that connection,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like, oh, okay, you think you're doing this on your own? You
Mm-hmm.
think you're fresh like
Mm-hmm.
that? Yeah, no.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I'm
Yeah.
grateful for that.
No,
But
that's
again, it's
good.
whatever works for you. But
Right.
for me, it's having that deeper meaning, um, overstanding, as you know, the spiritual people like to say,
Yes.
um,
Yes.
connection with the creator, right? And so
Yeah.
that's to me one of the practices I do, that I find fulfilling, because I
Yeah.
can't just do a regular meditation. That doesn't quite work for me. But for me, it's
Mm-hmm.
just like, okay, at least let me be present when I am praying and being
Right.
grateful.
Right, because it works for you.
Hmm.
That's what you need,
Yeah.
and it's feeding you in a way. And I think another form of self-care is time with friends, right?
Yes, the
Because some of
social
us,
aspect of,
yes,
yes, that's absolutely right. Yep.
where it's just like, oh, because I know every time that I get a chance to spend time with a friend,
It's like you get
I'm feeling
re-energized, right?
good.
Hmm.
Yes. And it's funny because
Well,
I'm
it
an
depends
introvert.
on the people too.
Yes, yeah, yes, yes, absolutely. I'm an introvert and I can't be around a whole lot of people for too long. Like my energy is depleted. Like
Right.
I'm drained. And this is with it, like it could be with family. Like
Hmm.
whenever we are like when we have our family
Hmm.
gathering, I love it and I'm happy. But when I tell you I get a massive headache, and it's just because of everyone's energy. And I'm like, oh,
You absorb that. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, I
yeah.
was like, I need to go to a room and
Mm,
just
mm,
lock
mm,
myself and y'all leave me alone.
mm, mm.
Because, but it just, it's because of all the energy and the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
excitement.
Hmm. Yeah,
It's that
yeah. It's a combination.
right. And so, but I enjoy when I am with family,
Right.
like when family's visiting or I'm spending time with a friend,
Yeah.
that is always, I love my one-on-one times with friends
Yeah, they say
because,
that that is for like that social self-care aspect, that putting the time and energy into developing those relationships and keeping them
mm-hmm,
going, because
mm-hmm,
it's so easy with day-to-day life to lose touch with people, and then it's
right.
like you start to grow apart and stuff. And I definitely feel like the older I've gotten, the busier everyone's lives have gotten.
Mm-hmm,
So with certain friends, because of our lifestyles, there are some certain friends that I have like monthly calls with. We just put it on a
mm,
calendar. So
that's
before we get
good.
off the phone, or before we depart from whatever we were doing, we're like,
Mm-hmm,
when's the next time we're meeting? And for those
mm-hmm,
friends that works. And then there are friends like, like for me, the bestie Natasha is just like, okay, I speak to her at least once a week and we're
right,
good.
right.
And
Mm-hmm,
then occasionally
mm-hmm.
we're like, okay, we'll meet up, whatever. But that is, that's that's important to cultivate. And sometimes you have to make an effort beyond liking stuff on social media. To me, that's just like not a real thing.
Right,
I
right.
don't know if that's generational or not. Like, I'm just like, just because I like your stuff doesn't mean we're friends like that. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know that.
Like, oh, Tamara's my bestie.
Like, no, that's not a thing. It's not a thing. So, but if there's effort in, ooh, we connect, we talk, we reach out, a
Right,
text here or
right.
there, that's different.
Right. Yeah, yeah. No,
You know,
absolutely.
and I mean, I think we covered some really good stuff here about what a self-care plan could look like. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, is look, prioritizing self-care for yourself, putting yourself first. I'm just
Yes,
gonna
bringing,
like
yeah.
you have to, and then and then developing what that plan looks like, and it doesn't have to be something that requires money or an excessive amount of time. It just requires
No,
whatever it is you need at that moment, but taking the time out for yourself to do those
to do
things.
it. Because everything else will fall into place.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, just kind of going off of what you said, those changes that you talked about, those simple changes that you made, you started to see the benefit of that, right? And I think
Yes.
we talked about that earlier in this conversation about like you're happier, you're more relaxed with the kids in the morning.
Right.
There isn't that same kind of energy of like that frenetic energy, which means that
Yeah.
you also start to develop stronger relationships with your kids because they're probably like, okay, mommy's not being jerk mom, you know?
Right, right. Well, how crazy so yelling for no reason. What you yelling for? To get your ass up and going. Let's go.
Right, 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 right. So I
Now
think,
it's like, get up, buddy. You can
yeah,
do this.
come on. Or you could wake your kids up like your father. Your father was like the original 10-10
Singing and
wins,
oh my gosh, singing
clapping.
and clapping. That is so annoying.
Yeah, I don't know who grew up like that, but yeah, my father thought it was appropriate to walk into our room and just clap with his big ass hands and loud clapping. I mean, he was in the army, but we did not go to the army, and
Gosh.
I just didn't think that was necessary. But
Yeah.
R.I.P. Poppy, R.I.P. Um, but I think this is a great conversation we had today, and I hope our listeners got something out of it. So, as we close this episode, remember self care takes many forms: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. A self care plan is not a one size fits all. Self care requires one to be introspective. It's about you identifying the areas you need the most nurturing. Prioritize yourself first and don't feel guilty about that. We're put on this earth to fulfill our purpose, and the best way to do that is to take care of yourself in the way that suits you best. A happier you is a better you, and a better you is your best contribution to the world. As always, the goal is to keep your vibrations high, and that starts with focusing on self care. So, that said, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter at I'm Not Yelling _ Thank you so much for listening, and we look forward to talking next time.